Previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs.
ともいちゃんには少し前に看護師衝殺事件の件でご協力お願いしましたよね。あの件について何か分かりましたか？
ええ、少しは。それが？
今回の一件はそれとも大きく関わっているんですよ。4年前からhinamizawa村ではOyashiro-samaのたたりと言われる殺人事件が毎年起きているんですが、あの衝殺事件もその一連だと私は睨んでいます。そしてあのたたりの数日後に大災害が起こって村人全員が亡くなった。
警部が立ち会われた事件と私たちが調べようとしているOyashiro-samaのたたりによる大災害、偶然にしては時系列が並びすぎている。ですからこの2つの件では共同で捜査を行う方がお互いにとっていろいろと都合がいいかと思います。
なるほど。
警察が何の用です？うちに何か？
いえ、ただお話を伺いたいと。
Misawa seemed restless. He was fidgeting and his eyes were running left and right. Maybe something happened. What could he be so afraid of?
何の話ですか？
こちらのご家族はhinamizawa出身だとお聞きしました。
話すことは何もない。お引き取りください。
馬宿町の何軒かの家、どこも留守でしたが、畠山という家ではかろうじて家の人の顔を見ることができました。と言ってもほとんど門前払いですが。
畠山さんね。確か70過ぎのじいさんがいる家でしたっけ？で、何か話してくれましたか？
Ooshi-san held a piece of paper in his hand and placed a check mark next to the entry for Akasaka family. I shook my head and took a sip of my coffee, then continued.
やはりというか、何も話してはくれませんでした。収穫はゼロです。
そうですか。
予想はしていたつもりでしたが、老人だけでなく若夫婦も子供もです。誰も頑なに口を開こうとしない。
どこの家も同じですね。
口を聞くどころか、
まるで疫病神みたいな態度ですか？
ええ、
そうそう。自分が今日調べてきた対象者の中には生贄の儀式をやっている家がありました。
生贄？
That was the first I'd heard of this.
身代わりというものでしょうか。鶏か何かの鳥を屠殺して何羽かをまとめて庭の木に吊るしていました。住民たちの話を聞いていると、何でもたたりを代わってくれるおまじないだそうで。
何ですかそれは？
詳しい話は直接聞くことができなかったんですが、ちょうど木に鳥の死体を吊るしている現場に出くわしましたので、壁越しに様子を伺ってきました。そしたら老人の声が聞こえてきまして、許しておくれ、わしらの身代わりだ。許しておくれ、わしらの身代わりだと。要請を受けて保健所には連絡したんですが、鳥だと食用の場合もありますから注意くらいしかできないそうです。自分としてもどうにも対応に困った次第で。速水さん、容疑者は助かりそうですか？
The elderly detective named Hayami silently shook his head toward Chief Inspector Minai. And then, a stretcher covered in a white cloth came rolling out at the entrance of the house. It was the worst-case scenario.
大石さん、
Ooshi-san remained silent and continued staring at the entrance of the house. No way. I never would have expected the situation to take such a sudden turn.
すみません、通ります。
One member of the mobile investigation team passed by me and rushed over to a parked police car, then grabbed the wireless receiver and began to report. Just seeing how things looked out here, it was clear how much of a disaster the work site must be.
殺人事件現場の馬宿町から小畑清宅の現場検証を報告します。被害者は畠山一馬氏で、死因は失血死。胸部と頸部の数箇所を容疑者の持参した文化包丁で刺された模様。他に。
え？あ、たった今続報が届きました。小畑容疑者は7年前柿内市に移住するまでは先日大災害のあったhinamizawa村の隣町沖宮に住んでいて、畠山さんとは数少ない友人関係にあったそうです。この事件について警察の発表は
7 years ago. Our investigation list only goes back 5 years. Do we need to alter our investigation to include people who left Hinamizawa before the dam conflict began in 1978? This is serious. It was difficult enough just going back 5 years. How far back do we need to look? The expanding scope of the investigation suddenly made me feel nauseous.
菅谷で一家無理心中事件が起こったそうです。自宅に放火して被疑者は家族ともども焼死したとのこと。他にも沢渡では介護センターの大浴場で数名を巻き込み、自らも死亡。
3 separate incidents.
それって
菅谷は私が調査に行ったところです。そして沢渡は
私ですね。おそらくそこは私が会ったばあさんのいる介護センターでしょう。
やっぱり。じゃあ今日起こった事件の容疑者はみんなhinamizawa出身者ってことなの？なんで？
警部？
Overwhelmed with shock, Chief Inspector Minai repeatedly pounded on the wall beside her, then tilted her head back and groaned. After seeing that, her team of detectives came running over, but she held up a hand to say, "I'm fine." Then she shook her head, and she walked with Detective Hayami to the police car.
大石さん、これは一体どういうことでしょう。
どうですかね。赤坂さん、偶然だと思われますか？
And so it continues. Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. So, the 3 families that we investigated in the last episode are now all dead, and we're right back to square one. So far, investigation's not going so well. But that's okay, we got an extensive list of other people we can interview. Surely not every single one of them is going to off themselves in some horrific fashion, am I right? So why don't we just go ahead and just continue on forward and see what our heroes are going to do next. Saturday, July 2nd, 1983.
もしもし、パパ？久しぶり。
元気かい、ゆき？
元気だよ。パパ、今どこにいるの？
あ、パパはね、今はまだ遠いところでお仕事なんだ。
In a land of mystery.
ゆき、おじいちゃんのところでちゃんとお利口さんにしてるかな？
おじいちゃんとおばあちゃんいっぱいみゆきと遊んでくれるの。あとこの前お買い物に行った時お人形さん買ってもらったの。今度パパにも見せてあげるからね。
楽しみにしてるよ。
I tried to avoid buying too many toys for Miyuki to keep her disciplined. But my mother and father-in-law didn't get to see her as often, so they would always buy her anything she wanted. Sometimes they made us feel one step away from an argument. But even though I wanted to talk to him about my approach to child rearing, I could never bring myself to say anything.
いつ帰ってくるの？明日？
明日は無理だな。でも、もうすぐ帰れると思う。
そうなの？いつ？
I said that to reassure her, but I immediately began to regret it. I didn't know the exact time frame, and was foolish to promise otherwise. However,
わかった。パパは警察官なんだから困った人のために働いてるんだもんね。
みゆき？
みゆきは平気だよ。パパが帰ってくるまでお利口さんにして待ってるからね。
thank you for being so understanding. My job sucks.
すまない。
She sounded cheerful, but I detected a hint of loneliness in my daughter's voice. I appreciated her kindness, but it still hurt.
それじゃあみゆき、また連絡するよ。
それじゃあパパ、またね。
Her cheerful voice echoed as she slammed the phone down. Was she handling it roughly out of childish innocence? Or was that her way of blaming me?
すまない。
I softly muttered as I set the receiver down. She's growing up without a mother, so I ought to spend more time with her as a father. Even though I'm a police officer, I'm still hopeless as a parent. And even though my daughter is the one in need of comforting, I'm still trying to assuage my own depressed feelings. I messed up that line. Yes, Tomie, he is indeed a daddy. Sensing a presence at the break room entrance, I suddenly turned to look, and I found Chief Inspector Minai standing there with a troubled expression.
申し訳ありません。立ち聞きするつもりはなかったのですが。
いや。情けないところを見られてしまいましたね。
Chief Inspector Minai had a stack of documents in her hands. She was probably coming to talk to me.
すみませんね。何かわかりましたか？
はい。大石さんも第三会議室におりますので、詳しいお話はそちらで。
Oh boy, I have a feeling that we're going to be learning, something remotely interesting.
わかりました。
Then, Chief Inspector Minai and I headed toward the 1st Investigation Division's conference room. For a while, we walked in awkward silence.
はい。
I responded by turning to face her.
さっきのお電話、お子さんですか？
ええ。5歳になりましてね。今は妻の実家に預けてあります。
実家？
Then, I told Chief Inspector Minai about how I lost my wife, being careful not to darken the mood too much. Right away, she gasped in shock.
大変ですね。
After that, she quickly grew quiet. But her words sounded earnest and compassionate. And then,
自分の父も警察官でした。もう亡くなって12年になりますが。
そうなんですか。
I'd already heard this story from Ooshi-san, but I pretended not to know. Just like earlier, her words contained a feeling that only people of a similar past could understand.
あまり休みのない人でしたから、幼い頃は時々文句も言ったものです。よその子たちは日曜祝日には父親と過ごしているのに、自分の家庭ではむしろ逆でしたからね。
耳が痛いです。この前も旅行をキャンセルして、ずいぶんがっかりさせてしまいました。きっと 私のいないところでは。
そうかもしれません。でも、
Chief Inspector Minai turned toward me and raised her head. Her eyes wandered for a moment as she chose her words. Then she looked straight at me and spoke.
私にとって父は今でも自慢の父です。この仕事を選んだのも今まで続けているのも父がいたからなんです。だからいつか赤坂警視のお子さんもきっと分かってくれると思います。親にもなったことのない自分が申し上げるのは僭越ですが、一緒に過ごした時間だけが親の思い出じゃないと今なら分かります。元気を出してください。
見ない警部。
お先に行きます。それでは。
Chief Inspector Minai turned away and quickly headed out. As I watched her walk away, I noticed that the heavy mood from earlier had gone a little lighter.
ありがとう、ともえさん。
When I entered the meeting room, I noticed Chief Inspector Minai, Ooshi-san, and 2 other detectives. Their faces looked familiar. I quickly recognized them as Chief Inspector Minai's subordinates, who were running around the crime scene the other day.
すみません、お待たせしました。
いえいえ、別に待っていませんよ。
Ooshi-san laughed as he put out his cigarette by the window. The ashtray was relatively clean and mostly empty. I guess this room is for important business, so the smokers feel too ashamed to use it.
赤坂さん、まずご紹介を。こちらは藤田巡査部長と花田巡査部長です。今日から本腰を入れてこの一件に加わってもらうことになりました。
At Chief Inspector Minai's urging, the 2 young detectives briefly stopped preparing materials to bow to me. They looked slightly nervous, but these were police officers, so they didn't seem all that strange.
2人とも素行はあまりいいとは言えませんが、口の堅さと頑丈さだけは信用できます。今回のような地道な捜査には最適だと思います。
そんなに俺たち素行悪いですかね。
未来さん、口の硬さはともかく頑丈って褒めてるんですか？
もちろん。なんせ私の右足くんと左足くんだからね。
With legs like these, I worry that you're gonna stumble some one of these days. Chief Inspector Minai smiled after saying that. She never spoke in such a casual tone around us. Hearing that allowed me to recognize how much she trusted these 2.
にしても足？腕じゃなくて？
つまりアッシーくんですか、俺たち。
なに？不満なの？
いいえ。
Yes, it was. Be honest. The 2 of them dejectedly hung their heads. After encouraging them, the Chief Inspector Minai's expression tensed, and she returned to her desk.
それでは始めましょうか。藤田くん。
はい。まずは。
On Chief Inspector Minai's direction, Detective Fujita spread the material out on the desk. The names and addresses of the Hinamizawa residents that Chief Inspector Ooshi-san and I had already investigated were marked in red. The far left column listed the age of each person. The list was mostly elderly people around age 70.
昨夜の一件を受けて、当初の5年前からさらに10年前まで対象者を広げてみました。数としてはおよそ2倍。いや、3倍弱ってところでしょうか。
Oh boy.
結構な数ですね。
Our eyes suddenly stopped on an item marked with a red circle.
畠山一馬と小畑清。
Needless to say, those were the names of the 2 elderly men who lost their lives in the tragedy last night.
完全に盲点でしたね。
ええ。小畑清は畠山氏と比べて 表立って派手な行動をしていませんでした。だから、見落としてしまった。
Everyone let out a deep sigh in unison. As much as I knew about the peculiarities of this curse, I was still powerless to prevent this tragedy, and that tormented me.
それにしても、私たちはタタリを恐れて奇妙な行動を起こす人を注意してきましたが、それ以外のことにも目を向けないといけないようですね。
それ以外のこと？
周囲への影響ですよ。伝染と言った方がいいですかね。
Ooshi-san was certainly right. Unlike Kazuma Hatakeyama, Kiyoshi Obata wasn't acting unusual in any way. However, there was a high probability that Obata was negatively influenced by Hatakeyama due to their close relationship.
それにしても、これだけ範囲を拡大するとなれば、操作するのも一苦労ですよ。
120世帯以上をこの人数でローラーかけるわけですか。単純に計算しても20日以上はかかりますね。
20 days is a long ass time to keep your kid waiting, Akasaka. If I were you, I'd get your tracksuit on and jog right through those cases. Well, sorry, houses. Detective Hanada shrugged his shoulders with a bitter smile. Indeed, when it came to our numbers, hard work alone wouldn't be enough. Besides, that was almost double the time we had left. Man, this is tough. But just as I began muttering those words to myself...
どうしました？赤坂警視。
見ない警部。それと大石さん。単なる偶然かもしれませんが、ちょっと奇妙なことを見つけました。
奇妙なこと？
これを見てください。
Sensing that something was off, I marked the list with a red pen. And then...
これとこれと、これが私の回った家で、これが見ない警部、これが大石さんの担当部、そしてそれぞれ奇妙な飾り付けやまじないを施していた家が。
ほほう。
Seeing them side by side on the list, the two of them noticed it too. Those 5 houses all had a certain thing in common.
そうです。みんな2世帯家族なんですよ。
The other homes only had people working on weekdays, so they were out or pretending to be out. And their houses had no decorations. It's the same in the homes of the elderly. And thinking about it, even the murderer Kiyoshi Obata didn't have any decorations at home. No prayers, no magic spells.
しかし、介護センターで事件を起こした正木さんは違いませんか？確かに彼女には娘さん夫婦がいるとリストにはありますが、一緒に住んでいたわけではない。
それなんですけどね、実は先週一度自宅に帰っているんですよ。で、本来なら孫の夏休みが始まるまで家族と一緒に暮らすはずだったとのことでしたが、急に。
ということは、自宅で問題行動を起こして家族が家から叩き出した。
まだ聞いてみないことには何とも。ですが、可能性はゼロではありませんね。
Indeed, the pattern at the Masaki family seemed to be the opposite of the Hatakeyama family. Then that means...
それじゃ、タタリに何か関与すると思われる対象は、2世帯が同居する家庭ということですか？
いえ、そこまではまだ。ですが、危険度が高いということは言えるかもしれません。そして、そう考えてみると現在、2世帯家族で事件に巻き込まれていないのは、この
もののべですか。
Ah, whoops, I thought he was done speaking.
割とここから近いですね。
In response to my suggestion, Detective Hanada drew red lines under the names Hirodata Takigami and Katsu Okamoto. Below those names were 5 and 3 people connected to those two, respectively.
それから、 小畑容疑者が沖宮出身でしたので、沖宮から転居してきた家族も捜査対象の中に入れました。藤田くん。
はい。こちらはhinamizawaの隣町、沖宮出身の家族のリストです。
And that brings our number of families from 120 to what now?
その中で祖父母と同居するものとなると、
Based on that assumption, I marked all the relevant names with a red pen. By narrowing the list under that assumption, there are only 8 multi-generational households left. The number had decreased substantially.
ずいぶん少ないものね。これだけ？
ですね。時代ですよ、時代。そういう私も父と母とは離れて暮らしていますから。
へえ、職員公社ですか。
安いですからね。せっかく公務員なんですから使わない手はないです。
うちは実家なんで、まあそれも使わない手はないわけです。
You poor sons of bitches. Ooshi-sen laughed after saying that, and Detective Fujita and Detective Hanada joined him in laughter. The two of them were unmarried, but didn't live near their parents. It's thanks to the explosive population growth after the war. Economic growth peaked during the post-war period, and public housing grew with tremendous momentum. Consequently, the number of people moving out of their parents' homes to start their own families has increased. That sort of pattern was evident from examining the list of people who moved out of Hinamizawa. Young adults leaving the village one after another, leaving only the elderly and the children back in the village. However, the people from Hinamizawa has strong hometown sentiment, so many of them still return to the village afterwards. And so, the number of young couples living together with grandparents has been declining.
さて、そういうことなら、とりあえず藤田くんは竹上家を重点でその周辺を願い、花田くんは岡本家重点でよろしく。私は佐伯介護福祉センターでの聞き込みの後、畠山家の現状を確認します。で、大石さんと赤坂さんには沖宮出身の家を回ってもらいたいんですが、どうされますか？
私たちは
There were still an enormous number of families from Okinomiya. Was there something we could do to narrow it down a bit? Even split between myself and Ooshi-san, where would we start? Ooshi-san's eyes stopped at a particular name on the list. It said Kimiyoshi. Oh, here we go. Wait. The 3 great families of Hinamizawa were the Furudis, the Sonozakis, and...
その通りですよ、赤坂さん。間違いなく、これはhinamizawaの御三家の一つですね。
なぜ断言できるんですか？
hinamizawaの村で御三家の名前を付けられるのは、その血筋の者しかいないからですよ。巴ちゃん、よく見つけましたね。
いえ、私はそのこと今初めて知りました。でも沖宮から移転した家族にそんなhinamizawaの有力名家が移り住んでいたんですね。
According to legends, ancient legends, the 3 families of Hinamizawa were said to possess the blood of demons. Someone sharing the blood of a powerful family in the village is certainly worth investigating.
私たちの担当はこの家からで、赤坂さん、ここだけは一緒にどうです？
そうですね。早速今から向かいましょう。
それでは私は佐伯介護福祉センターから行きます。畠山一馬氏の入院中のことで何かわかるかもしれませんので。
わかりました。よろしくお願いします。
Oh, Natsumi! I would get some tea brewed. You're gonna have guests soon. Then, Ooshi-san and I decided to pay a visit to the Kimiyoshi family, who moved from Okinomiya 1 year ago. However, we were hit with a sudden rainstorm on the way, so it took longer than expected. Hoping to make up for lost time, Ooshi-san and I rushed to the house. The Kimiyoshi family, one of the 3 families of Hinamizawa, was in this town. That fact made my heart race. Ooshi-san must have felt the same way, as he pushed forward without wasting any time on idle chatter. And once we reached the house, we stopped in front of the gate. I checked the nameplate. Toji Kimiyoshi. That was the name of the homeowner. According to our records, the head of the family, Tojo Kimiyoshi, was not from Hinamizawa, but another prefecture. He met Haruko Kimiyoshi in college and later took her family name. Haruko Kimiyoshi is a distant relative of the mayor of Hinamizawa, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi. They say she's quite beautiful, but she has a strong personality, understatement, and walks all over her husband. She was apparently involved in student activism during her college days, and the records are still in prefectural police headquarters. That definitely explains her bullish and confrontational demeanor. However, the photos we just acquired gave the impression that she was just a typical housewife, living a peaceful life, as far as we know. And then, there was Haruko's mother, Aki. Aki is from Hinamizawa, and it seems her deceased husband, Tokujiro Kimiyoshi, was also her cousin. In other words, it was a marriage between different branches of the family. Apparently, marriage between relatives wasn't unusual at that time. And in a sense, doing so was an effective way of keeping the blood of Hinamizawa purists within the family. And finally, the only daughter in the Kimiyoshi family, a high school girl, Natsumi. Based on the photographs I've seen, she looked like an ordinary girl with lovely round eyes. It was a bit rare for high school kids nowadays to have such youthful facial features.
ここで間違いないですね。
ええ。
I nod toward Ooshi-san. And then, as I moved through the gate, I noticed the shadow of a person sitting near the entrance. With 2 pigtails, and wearing a school uniform. Her head was pointed down, but it was clearly a girl.
雨宿りでしょうか。
自分の家の玄関先でですか?
After thinking about it, that was a stupid question. Not many people would sneak through a courtyard to take shelter in front of another family's house. That meant this was her home. But why on earth would she be sitting in front of the entrance?
だな。
And just then, I heard the girl's voice.
やっぱりアルバイト行けばよかったな。もう少し小ぶりになってくれれば。
She muttered something, but I couldn't catch it. Her voice was drowned out by the sound of the crashing raindrops. Ooshi-san and I silently nodded to one another, then slowly approached. The girl must have noticed our footsteps. She gasped and looked up.
すみません。この家の方ですか？
え？あ、はい。
So, you're sitting out here... No, never mind. Never mind. She timidly nodded her head. Without needing to double-check the picture, I was certain this girl was Natsumi-san, the daughter of the Kimiyoshi family.
はじめまして。沖宮書房の赤坂守と言います。
あ、こんにちは。
Natsumi-san seemed to lighten up when I mentioned the name Okinomiya. Ooshi-san suggested that we avoid mentioning our connection to the police at this time. People who have been living peacefully often react strongly when they hear someone mention the police.
それにしても土砂降りの中こんなところでどうかされましたか？
鍵を忘れて。
鍵？
今日は父も母もおばあちゃんもみんな用事で出かけてるんです。でも私、朝学校に行くときに忘れちゃって。
I see. So that means she can't get inside until someone else in the family comes home. However, it might actually be more convenient for us if no adults are present. Ooshi-san must have had the same thought, as he took the opportunity to start a friendly conversation with her.
なるほど、それはお気の毒です。では、いかがですか？雨宿りがてらに近くでお茶でも。
Ooshi-san invited her in a gentle tone, but Natsumi-san wore a cautious expression. That reaction seemed natural, of course.
いや、私たちは決して怪しいもんじゃありませんよ。沖宮書房というのは鹿骨市沖宮にある出版社でしたね。
沖宮ですか？
Natsumi-san seemed to show more interest after he mentioned Okinomiya. That was the town where she lived until last year.
ええ、私たちは沖宮の出版社からやってきたんですよ。本好きですか？
はい、好きです。ほとんど図書館で借りた本ですが。
Natsumi's eyes began to shine as she rattled off the names of several famous books. Based on how much she had to say about it, she really must love books.
確かに面白い本は買うと高いですからね。
そうなんです。古い本が多いから読みにくいこともありますけど、それも楽しかったりして。
Anyone would get sucked into a conversation about their favorite topic. Natsumi-san seemed happy, and she began talking about subjects beyond just answering our questions.
で、それから、それで、ご用件は？
But there had to be an end to the lighthearted conversation. After a brief pause, Natsumi-san asked again more sharply.
実はですね、私たちは地域誌の本を作っていましてね。この家のおばあちゃんはHinamizawa出身と聞いて、裏のお話を聞きたいと考えてお伺いしたんですが。
地域誌？
さっきお話に上がったタイトルの中には、地方の民話をもとに書いた作品もありますよね。
あ、そうです。童話とかは作家がその地方に残る民間伝承を取材して書き上げたものが多くて。
ああ、わかります。それで私たちもそういった地域に残る話を後世に伝えたいと思いまして。
へえ。
Natsumi-san nodded with a glimmer in her eyes. I was making up the story as we went along, but it seemed like the story got through to her.
ということで、地元のお年寄りの話を聞いているんですよ。
However, I'm not sure if Ooshi-san looks like the kind of man who works at a publishing company. She looked back at him with a dubious expression. Maybe it would be better to talk inside of a bookstore.
ああ、この人は私の上司でね。大石と言います。
どうも、同僚の大石です。どうです？ちょっとお話を聞かせてもらえませんかね。
でも私、沖宮の歴史なんて全然。
いや、気になさらずに。何でも、そう軽い世間話でもいいんですよ。
ならおばあちゃんに聞いてください。もうすぐ多分あと2時間くらいで帰ってきますから。
それじゃその方が戻ってくるまでの時間つぶしということでいかがです？あなたさっきお腹が空いたと言ってらしたようですが。
あ、
Natsumi-san suddenly held her stomach. And just then, her stomach lightly gurgled. That was a boing, not a gurgle. You liar.
図星ですね。
So so that's what the gurgling stomach of a demon sounds like. A boing.
さあさあ、参りましょう。せっかくですから美味しいものご馳走しますよ。
Immediately after saying that, Ooshi-san started walking toward the street. Natsumi-san looked confused, but she quickly stood up.
どうぞ。
Just then, I held out my umbrella to her, and she seemed like the type who couldn't refuse, so she walked side by side with me. The three of us sat at a booth in a coffee shop. You know what? I think I'll have a drink myself. Ooshi-san and I sat across from Natsumi Kimiyoshi-san. The two of us must look peculiar, sitting in with a high school girl wearing her school uniform. I don't need to worry about that. Taking a peek beside me, Ooshi-san was carefully looking at Natsumi-san with a smile on his face. More like staring at her.
大石さん、怪しまれますよ。
Yes, please, don't. It'd be quite scandalous if you did. I prodded him with my elbow as I quietly muttered that. You sure that wasn't Natsumi's stomach gurgling twice in a row? Are you sure?
いやー、めったにこんな若い子と話す機会がないものでつい。
Ooshi! Indeed, he was as much of an old dog as ever. After that awkward gesture, Natsumi Kimiyoshi started watching him carefully.
さて、何を頼まれますか？
あ、私、夏美です。君吉、夏美。
She reflexively gave us her name and timidly repeated it. She probably did it to show proper manners around adults, but I guess she was suddenly feeling nervous. And then, she turned her pale face this way to ask a question.
それで、私に話って何ですか？
I looked down, thinking carefully and choosing my words. Then, I slowly raised my eyes.
そうですね。私たちが聞きたいのは、
Natsumi-san's generation probably wouldn't know much about it, but
お社様についてです。
Natsumi-san acutely tilted her head and stared blankly ahead. Maybe she didn't understand what I was talking about. No, that's impossible. She was a child of the Kimiyoshi family, one of the three great families of Hinamizawa, and she still lived with her grandmother, so she must have heard something. After thinking that, I continued.
Hinamizawaの土着信仰、お社様崇拝について話を聞きたいのですよ。
それってあまり私はよく。
Now, Natsumi, don't lie.
確かにおばあちゃんは神棚にお参りしています。でも詳しいことは。
そのおばあちゃんの神様には終末思想というものがあるんですよ。
終末思想？
Apocalyptic stories are found in many religions and cultures across the world. In times of political and economic instability, or when people are in great distress, they tend to attribute that distress to the will of the gods and tell stories about that to seek relief.
それがおばあちゃんのどんな。
ねえ、その終末思想がたたりというものを引き起こしたと私たちは考えています。先日村がガスで全滅しました。例のHinamizawa村のガス災害です。それで噂が流れていましてね、Oyashiro-samaのたたりだと言うんです。ですがこれがただの噂でなくなってきてしまった。村の出身者、特に老人を中心に理解しがたい行動が広がっていましてね。気候。
In other words, they all believe that the disaster was caused by Oyashiro-sama's curse, and are trying to halt that curse by conducting these religious ceremonies. Allegedly. Natsumi-san seemed to be listening carefully for the time being, but her expression suggested that she was a little confused. Looking at her, it seemed like she was trying to digest the information and pieced it together with what she already knew. After carefully observing the situation, I continued. I told her about the religious ceremonies and about the recent serious incidents. Arson, murder, and the most common element, suicide. If someone wanted to take their own life, they could easily just hang themselves or jump in front of a train. But the troubling thing was, the culprits often dragged unrelated bystanders into these incidents. Several incidents happened in the places we visited. An elderly person started a murder incident in the bathhouse at the care center. An old man involved his family by setting their home on fire in Suguya.
これらはすべてHinamizawa出身者によって引き起こされているんです。
Yeah, that's right. It was a bathhouse. It wasn't some third family that they were investigating last episode. Well, I'm a dummy. But that's hardly news to some of you guys at this point, I'm sure. All these incidents. Oh, he already said that.
そんなの私。
Natsumi-san slumped down onto the table. It was only natural. There were many frightening criminals out there who came from her hometown. How would I feel hearing the same thing? And at last, she seemed to understand why we came here. The remorse and uneasiness climbed up to her face as she caught her breath.
あなた方は。
自殺者の中には通常の思考では考えられない死に方をする人までいるんです。まるで周囲の人までも生贄として巻き添え。例えば自分の爪で喉を引き裂いて血にまみれながら苦しみ抜いて死ぬとか。
ちなみにあなたの家は大丈夫ですか？
Natsumi's shoulders were lightly trembling. She looked down like she was thinking of an answer. No, it looked more like she was searching for the words to escape this place.
大丈夫。
Just then, Ooshi-san, who stayed silent up until that point, suddenly grabbed Natsumi's downward-facing head with both his hands and lifted it up.
嘘でしょ？
Natsumi's eyes froze as he looked up at Ooshi-san.
まずい。大石さん、やりすぎだ。
I tried reaching out to stop him, but Ooshi-san continued speaking before I had the chance.
ひなみざわにはね、わからないことが多すぎるんですよ。 特に今回の合災害とその後の事件はもう我々の事件をはるかに超えている。古出神社の巫女古出理香が災害前に惨殺された。彼女が殺されたことがこの一連の事件と何らかの関連がある。それぐらいなんですよ、我々が思いつくのは。だからあなたからお聞きしたいんですよ、もっと詳しいことを。
何も。
Natsumi-sen froze with a look of terror on her face. He was treating this like an interrogation. We won't learn anything if we don't proceed cautiously. Reel him back in, then.
大石さん、
教えてくれますよね、君吉さん。
知らん。
She tried standing in order to escape from here. But just then, with a fierce crashing sound, a pure white ball appeared in front of Natsumi-san. Hi! Fancy seeing you here. A beautiful canvas painting crashed into the table. As I raised my head, I saw a boy staring down at us, wearing a school uniform bearing the same name as Natsumi-san's school.
東堂君。
So, were you just having some tea or coffee in here yourself when we showed up? Just asking. I'm just wondering why you're here. The boy that Natsumi-san referred to as Toto turned to face her in concern. Then,
出よう、君吉。
after declaring that, he grabbed Natsumi's arm and pulled her up.
私たちまだお話し中なんですがね。
こちらにはないようです。だよな、君吉。
Natsumi-san timidly nodded. Her strong eyes shined. And then, the boy escorted Natsumi-san out of the store to protect her. Good going, old dog. You just screwed the pooch big time with this one. What a failure. Even though we had the good fortune of speaking with the only daughter of the Kimiyoshi family, she ran away, and we didn't learn anything.
ちょっとやりすぎでしたかね。
A little?
いや、申し訳ない。
I should pour my drink over your head.
ついついいつもの感じで。
Ooshi-san laughed. But of course, his apology was no consolation.
相手は女の子ですからね。ここは例えば見ない警部に代わってもらった方がベストかもしれませんよ。
ですね。
Well, it's not like she's gonna be willing to talk to you guys after all this, so I mean, what choice do you have? You kinda made her scared of you.
戻ったらお願いしてみますか。
I can understand Ushi-san's impatience. By chance, we encountered someone who could give us a powerful clue. It seems like we were right on the edge of something, so he thought he had no choice. Even as I was talking to her, there was never a moment when that frustration completely left my head. We failed to keep each other in check, and that blunder filled me with regret.
それじゃ気分を入れ替えて、とりあえずご家族の評判だけでも聞いておきましょうか。
ええ。
Then, we wandered around the neighborhood gathering intel, visited the classroom where Haruko Kimiyoshi was taking classes on flower arrangement, investigating Toji Kimiyoshi's workplace, and carefully listened to everything we could find. And then, we visited Natsumi-san's house again, about an hour after she left us.
雨、 上がったみたいですね。
Now that is just some real fast work. Having done all this in just an hour. Good, go Grandma. Like, holy shit. Grandma works fast. The scene in front of the Kimiyoshi family house made me catch my breath. The house was completely different when we visited here earlier. It was a normal-looking house, with a gate and a courtyard. The kind of home that other homemakers would be envious of. That sort of house. But in just a few hours? Okay, I guess she had more than 1 hour to work with. Wait, hold on, wait a minute. It's only been, you say it's only just been an hour after your conversation with Natsumi, and now you're saying it's a few hours since you've last visited the house where you ran into Natsumi. Something's not adding up here.
何ですか?
It was a typical residential area, aside from this one part that was hard to describe. A set of candles were lined up one by one on each side of the gate. A thick Shinto straw festoon was hanging over the gate, and attached to it were several white paper streamers with a zigzagging pattern said to represent lightning. And it wasn't just the gate. The decorations also covered the wall around the courtyard, and even the entrance and windows of the house were decorated. And as the wind blew across the paper streamers hanging from the festoon, no, that wasn't just the sound of the paper streamers fluttering in the wind. When I looked up at the trees in the garden, I saw those life-size human-shaped figures cut out of white paper. Rustle, 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 rustle. Indeed, they were the source of that eerie sound. Characters were written on the paper figures. These were just like the paper figures I saw at the Hatakeyama house. Natsumi, Tojo, Haruko, Aki. Each piece of paper had the name of a Kimiyoshi family member written on it.
ここもですか?
When I looked by my feet, I saw the crushed markings of a bonfire slightly inside the gate. No, it didn't look like a simple bonfire. It looked like a Buddhist fire ritual. When a monk assembles the wood step by step and burns it at an altar, they call it a gomadaki ceremony. It's built to send out prayer. I've learned something about Buddhism today. It looked like that the wood was ignited on a small ritual pile, wasn't extinguished by water, but trampled out. That was the impression it gave me.
これも何かの祈祷でしょうか?
さあどうなんでしょうか。誰かに邪魔された、そんな様子にも見えますが。
Even so, that wasn't the only abnormal detail. The outside wall of the house was supposed to be white, but it was filled with enough markings to make it appear black. And of course, more prayers were written here too.
これのかむ床に、癒しろのみけみきを捧げ祭りて、かしこみかしこみも恋のみ松楽、平らげく安らげくきこしめして、お社の狼の高き広きかしき。
It's real creepy hearing you, of all people, say these lines. Ushi-san stared at the house with a dark expression as he quietly read the prayer.
次は ここかもしれませんね。
An audible huh escaped me as I turned to look toward Wushi-san. However, he returned the glance back at me and tried to put his thoughts into words.
被害者ですよ。いや、ひょっとしたら加害者の方かもしれませんが。
His words were ominous. I thought back on the girl who was with us until a little while ago.
君吉。夏美。
I couldn't say anything else, but I continued staring at the ritualistic decorations. Not good for Natsumi. Not good at all. And this is supposed to be an answer arc too. I'm assuming. Well, no, I don't think this is the last story that we're going to be seeing featuring these characters. So I guess it's possible for things to go south at the very end in this arc too. But still, I was hoping that maybe this time, compared to the last arc, things could go, differently enough to where very few people, if anyone, had to die. But I'm suddenly not feeling so optimistic about that anymore. Monday, July 4th, 1983.
菓子パン1個ってあんたの昼食それだけ？
And we're finally back to these guys. Hallelujah. It was the usual banter. I was actually worried about what happened, but those were the words that came out.
変かな。
いや、変っていうか、いつものお弁当は？おばさんお手製の卵焼きとかミートボールとかはないの？
今朝お母さん寝坊しちゃって。
そうなの？ああ、残念。せっかくわびしくて味気ない購買のパン食のおかずにご賞味させていただこうと期待してたのに。
千里ちゃん、せこいよ。
After saying that with a shocked expression, Natsumi's shoulders drooped. And just then, Tomoko came back from buying a drink at the vending machine.
お待たせ。あれ？夏美？
Then she sat across from Natsumi and asked about the same thing I did earlier. And her follow-up answer was the same as before.
へえ、なんか珍しいね。夏美がお弁当持ってこないなんて。ひょっとして初めてじゃないの？
意外。完璧超人のおばさんでも失敗するんだね。これは新発見だ。
After an awkward laugh, Natsumi opened her bag of bread. Is that an apple Danish? Excuse me. It seems wrong to say, but she must have no eye for flavor if she picked one of the top 5 worst items on the menu.
いけない。
Do it. Somehow I managed to avoid speaking the words in my head. Tomoko would be able to roll with it, but Natsumi would take it really hard. But even so.
けどさ、夏美、パン1個ってのはいくらなんでも少ないんじゃない？
そう？あんまり食べたことがないから、どれくらいなら大丈夫かなってわからなくて。
Now that's no good, Natsumi. You should eat more than just this little piece of bread if you want everybody to think that you're healthy.
いや、それでもこれは少ないよ。ねえ、フードファイターのたまこさん。
誰が大食いだ。でも まあちょっち少ないかもね。私買いすぎたからお裾分けしよっか。いいの？たまこちゃんありがとう。
Natsumi accepted Tomoko's castella and cheesecake with a smile. As expected, Tomoko gave Natsumi the most popular pastry. I delicately watched her to see her reaction. Is it poisoned?
だけど夏美、お昼とはいえちゃんとご飯は食べないとさ。
そうなんだけど、ちょっと。
出なきゃ出るとこ育たないよ。
I suddenly squeezed Natsumi, and she got a piece of bread painfully lodged in her throat. You're gonna kill her! Then she rushed to grab a sip of milk and stared me down with her half-crying eyes.
千里ちゃん、出るとこって何が？どこが？
いやー、そりゃ健全な男女交際のことですけどね。
また健全かい。だいたい千里、あんたこの前はツルペッタンはステータスだなんてド派手に宣言してたでしょうが。
She's got you there.
そりゃ言ったことは言ったけどさ、あんまり物足りないのもどうかなってさ。あいつも一応男だからね。
それって東堂くんのこと？
As soon as Akira became the subject of the conversation, Natsumi turned bashful. She's really such an earnest girl.
他に誰かいるの？もしかして夏美、もう別の男に？
そんなわけないでしょ。私はだってその。
After waving her hands in denial, Natsumi turned red when her real intention almost came out. Ah, what a cutie. I can't believe how happy this girl is.
まあまあ、アキラちゃんはそういうのって気にしないと思うよ。だから安心しなさい。本当？ほら、デッサンとかで女体はゲップが出るほど見てるでしょ。むしろ夏美のようなスレンダーさんの方が普段見慣れてなくて新鮮かも。
おいおい、たまこさんや、そりゃフォローになってないでしょうが。そりゃまあ、前に見たモデルさんはアザラシもどきのすごいおばさんだったから、ちょっとアキラには同情したけど。
例えるなら、私たちが油切ったおっさんをデッサンするようなものだからね。
There's an idea. Let's draw Ooshi.
もはや人間として見ない方が精神安定上いいのかも。
おいおい、そこまで言うか？ねえ、夏美はどう思う？
I said that while patting her on the shoulder, but Natsumi was slow to react. When she dubiously turned her head to me, Natsumi was looking downward with a troubled expression on her face.
どうしたの？夏美。
東堂くんって女の人のモデルをそんなにいつも見てるのかなって。
Well, if he does, well, there's an easy solution to this. Get within his line of sight.
いや、そりゃそうでしょう。あいつ美術の特待だから、デッサンは漢字の書き取りみたいな基本授業だし。むしろやってないという方がおかしいよ。
そうだよね。授業なら仕方ないよね。
You okay, Natsumi? No, seriously. I mean it. All you gotta do is just stand yourself right in front of him, and I'm sure he'll happily stare at you for as long as you'll let him. He's earnest that way. Like you. Right then, just for a moment, through the space between Natsumi and her desk, I could see both her hands down on her knees, trembling. Natsumi, almost as if she was tearing her skirt apart. Her hands were balled into fists, clenching tightly.
夏美、あのさ。
あきらちゃんだ。おーい。
With awful timing, Tomoko noticed Akira walking in the hall and interrupted me to call out to him. As usual, Akira had a dull expression on his face as he stopped to look our way.
ちょうどいいところに来た。あきらちゃん、夏美が呼んでるよ。ちょっとたまこちゃん。夏美だって気になるでしょ。なら本人に直接お聞きなさいな。
I agree. Tomoko urged him towards Natsumi with a teasing smile, while Natsumi continued to panic. It seemed like Tomoko hadn't noticed the state Natsumi had been in for a little while now. I thought it was a mistake, but I was also interested in seeing where this would go.
まあいいか。ほらほら、アキラもそんなとこぼさっと突っ立ってないで。
おい。
Akira hesitated to enter and just stood there staring at Natsumi's face. So I grabbed his hand and dragged him into the conversation. That's right, get your face out away from the canvas for a minute and stare at this fine young lass. It will calm her nerves, which will be good for everybody's sake. Seriously. It'll save lives! Then I walked over to the chair I was sitting in earlier and plopped his butt down.
ちょっと、ちさ。
まあまあまあ、遠慮するなよ、アキラくん。夏美がさ、あんたがどれだけデッサンで女性の体を見慣れているか、ぜひとも聞いておきたいんだってさ。
佐藤ちゃん。そんなこと私一言も。
じゃあ夏美は気にならないの？
This could go really bad. Depending on how this could go really bad if you're not careful. So tread carefully, Chisato. Natsumi bashfully turned away as her face turned red. That reaction left Akira even more confused, and he blushed as well.
いや、人物デッサンといっても、俺は風景画が中心だから、あんまり参加してないぞ。そりゃ、1年生の頃は強制参加だったから、2回。いや、3回ほど出席したけど、進級してからは一度も出てないというか、本当だぞ。
そうなんだ。
いやさ、アキラ、そこまで詳細に言えとは頼んでないんだが、しかもものすっごく言い訳臭いのはどういうわけだ？
それはやっぱりちゃんと説明しておかなきゃ君吉が不安があるかなって。
そうなの？ごめんね、東堂くん。変な心配させて。
いや、いいって。
はい、ごちそうさま。
Tomoko-chan and I clapped our hands together in unison, with a mix of shock and awe. Natsumi and Akira bashfully looked at each other, and fell silent.
まあ、もう見慣れた光景だけどね。
Tomoko and I have been spreading information to the class to let everyone know that Natsumi and Akira have started dating, and it's already become a well-known fact. Both of them were the type to be slow about moving forward. Tomoko suggested we avoid making a lot of noise about it right away, to avoid hurting them. Of course, some of the classmates reacted strongly, but for the most part, they treated it like a familiar sight.
じゃあ、あとはアキラに任せて、私たちは退散しますか。
ごめんね、夏美、アキラちゃん。私たちこれから職員室で用事があるの。
おい、ちさ、タマ。
After saying that, Tomoko and I grabbed our lunches and stood up to make space for Natsumi and Akira. We ignored the nervous voice calling out to us as we exited the classroom.
Hmm. ちょっち強引だったかな。
I leaned against the rooftop fence and took a bite of my bread while turning toward Tomoko, standing beside me. She delicately sat down on the bench and stabbed a straw into her milk carton.
まあいいんじゃないかな。あれくらいお膳立てしないと二人ともなかなか一緒に昼食をとったりしないしね。
いや、まったくあの二人には苦労させられるよ。不器用カップルというか、お子ちゃまカップルというか。
それでも当人たちは幸せみたいだよ。アキラちゃんは愛想を振りまくのが苦手みたいだから、夏美みたいに純粋に慕ってくれる子はきっと可愛いんだろうね。
ええ純粋でなくてすいませんね。
まだ心残りはある？
I hesitated to respond to Tomoko's question and looked up to the sky. There were only a few clouds in the sky. It was certainly lovely weather. It felt a little sweaty thanks to the humidity, so it might rain soon. Mamoru and Tomoko were probably the only ones who knew my true feelings. Especially Tomoko, since she was directly involved with Natsumi and Akira's relationship. I haven't said anything, but I'm sure she's picked up on my mixed feelings.
後悔しない？
さあね。
一度も伝えずに不先輩なんて
うるさいな。
千里がアキラちゃんのこと特別に思ってたのは知ってる。それこそこの高校に入ったのだって。
Wait a minute, so it's Akira that you have feelings for.
やめて。
Is that it? Snap. Even I was surprised at how strong and cold my voice sounded as I interrupted Tomoko. We've already discussed every detail of this story, countless times. And I've already decided there can only be one conclusion. So, this is the part where Tomoko usually apologizes and changes the subject. However, this time, why won't she back down?
応援しててなんだけどさ、アキラちゃんと夏美は合わないような気がする。さっきアキラちゃんのデッサンの話が出た時、夏美の反応を見たでしょ。絵描きにとっては別に当たり前のことなのに、あの子は全然割り切って考えられない。今のままじゃこの先不安だよ。
So, Tomoko noticed that change in Natsumi after all.
最近気づいたんだけど、夏美って独占欲が強いよね。もっと悪い言い方をすれば嫉妬深い。すごく。今はまだ慣れてないから表には出してこないけど、将来あんな感じでアキラちゃんを束縛し続けたら、きっとアキラちゃん息が詰まってくるんじゃないかな。
いい加減にしなさいよ、タマコ。
There was no way that was a simple slip-up. This was completely abnormal for Tomoko.
だいたい夏美の悪口は言うなって、いつも私に注意してるのはあんたでしょ。そのあんたが夏美の悪口を言うなんて、一体どう？
勘違いしないで。私が夏美に対しての言い方をあんたに注意したのは、あんたが誰よりも可愛がって大事にしたいと思っている子だから、こういう言い方の方が好かれるよって。
ちょっと。
本音で言えばさ、今の夏美だったら私個人的には好きになれない。 前に聞いたひなみざわ出身者の噂も気になるけど、夏美はそのことずっと私たちに隠してるじゃない。
まあそうだけど、でも
It was so shocking. I don't think I've ever seen Tamako say she hated someone like this.
相談してくれたらいつでも力になるつもりなのに、なんだかあの子私たちのこと全然信用してくれてないように感じるの。それが私腹が立つ。他にも千里の本当の気持ちも考えないでアキラちゃんと仲良くやってるのも、そんな見せかけだけの友情をなんで貴重に思わなきゃいけないのよ。
タマコ、あんた。
You really should be careful with this train of thought, because the last time you guys entertained that, things did not end well for anybody. I was dumbfounded. I had no words, so I just stared at Tamako. I think I get it. Tamako is really upset right now. Yeah, she's right. It's time to stop the deception and be honest. There was always a small flame of resentment against Natsumi in the bottom of my heart, and it was smoldering. I've also heard about the great Hinamizawa disaster and all the strange incidents people from that village have caused. In fact, I heard that one of the patients at the Care and Welfare Center in my father's hospital was involved in an incident when he returned home. So I understood the prejudice against people from Hinamizawa. I was scared and restless about it too.
でも、だからだ。だからこそ。
I wanted Natsumi to tell me the truth. Mamoru told me that Natsumi was from the town next to Hinamizawa. I think the reason she's been acting so abnormal lately is because she's had to deal with all of that on her own, and there should be evidence to support that. But why won't she talk to us about it? Why does she insist on keeping these awful feelings bottled up? Is it because she doesn't like us anymore? Does she think we'd stop being her friends if we found out? And perhaps the most painful betrayal, why doesn't she realize how we feel about this? We trusted each other. We had a deep understanding. So why does she have such a one-sided view of our relationship? My frustration boiled over. I suddenly wanted to smack something. Until now, I've been suppressing these guilty feelings for Natsumi's sake. Yet I've wanted to do the opposite from the beginning. I'm sure I brought this upon myself. Natsumi's been hurting all this time, and I never noticed. So I believe this is my atonement. I was the one who got upset with Natsumi in the first place, so this is my mistake. But that's wrong. That's wrong. It was just because I ran away from this.
ねえ、タマコ。
何？
もしも夏美がひなみざわ出身者だったとしたら、あんたどうする？
そうだね。誰かからそれを知ったら、多分私はあの子と絶交する。
A definitive answer. Tamako declared that in a cold tone with no hesitation. And then...
でも、もし、夏美から打ち明けられて相談されたら、私はあの子を守ると思う。誰が何て言おうと、 私の大切な親友だからね。
タマコ。
Hearing Tomoko's cheerful answer, I suddenly had to look away and think it over. And what would I do? Protect Natsumi? Or...
あれ？
I didn't mean to eavesdrop. Tomoko said that she had things to do, so we parted ways after leaving the rooftop. And hoping to give my dilemma some more thought, I stopped by the vending machine at the corner to grab a coffee. But, by chance, I could hear a conversation between Natsumi and Akira right over there, so I turned my back toward them and listened in.
やっぱり気持ち悪いって思った。
Akira remained silent and didn't respond to Natsumi's question in any way. However, his eyes wandered erratically, and he clenched his fist. But thanks to my long history with Akira, I recognize his habit of taking a long time to choose his words when he feels lost.
そうだよね。気持ち悪いよね。あんなの。
However, Natsumi clearly wasn't aware of how Akira handled situations like this, so she callously continued speaking. Since I was listening in with my back turned, I couldn't see the expression on her face.
家に気味の悪い魔除けを飾り付けたり、変なお経を唱えたり、それにおかしな事件を起こして殺人を犯す人たち。気持ち悪いよね。私だってそんな人嫌だ。近くにも寄りつきたくないよ。
君吉。
たたりとかお社様とかバカバカしい。なんでHinamizawaの出身だからってそんな変な人ばかりがいなくなればいい。みんないなくなれば誰にも迷惑もかけなくなって、そして
やめろよ君吉。
Unwilling to hear any more, Akira grabbed Natsumi by the shoulders to quiet her. Natsumi winced and tensed her body for a moment, but she eventually calmed down a little, her back still trembling. How can you even see this? I thought you have your back towards them right now. Then, I could hear a faint sob in Natsumi's voice.
気味の悪い魔除け？変なお経？
Was that another rumor about strange behavior from people from Hinamizawa? Then, maybe the reason Natsumi didn't bring a lunch today is because someone from her family is...
大丈夫だから。家のことは誰にも言わない。クラスの連中だって誰の家かなんて分かっていなかったみたいだし。別におまじないをするのはおかしくなんてないだろ。
No, but when you do it to the access like what we saw of Natsumi's house, then alarm bells are going to start ringing in people's heads.
俺も野外スケッチでいろんな装飾の神社を見てきたからわかるよ。
東堂君。
だから気にするなよ。俺は分かっているから。
嘘だ
！That instant, every ounce of my body wanted to scream, but I barely managed to choke it down. Such a powerful voice, with an incredible bloodlust mixed in. That was the first time I'd heard anything like it. As if Natsumi was roaring like a beast. No. That's not it. Is that girl really Natsumi? Could this really be the timid Natsumi Kimiyoshi that I know? Unbelievable. Rather than some true nature coming out, it seems like she changed into a completely different creature that only looked the same. I was tormented by the feeling that something was out of place. and I guess Akira felt the same way. I steadied my breathing and calmed my heartbeat, then turned to face them again. Akira was standing there with a look of shock on his face and his eyes wide open. Eventually, Natsumi seemed to return to herself and start breathing normally. Then she ran past Akira's side and rushed into the school building. But Akira continued standing there, dumbfounded. Having completely lost the opportunity to reveal myself, I opted to leave the area.
もし夏美から打ち明けられて相談されたら、誰が何て言おうと私の大切な親友だからね。
Tamako. The Natsumi you were talking about. That was your best friend, Natsumi Kimiyoshi. But if Natsumi stopped being your best friend, what would you do? And what would I do? I don't know. I don't know what's right anymore. New tips unlocked. Career aspirations. Alright, let's see what this is.
アキラも陸王大にしたの？
おう。なんかまずかったか？
いや、まずくはないけどさ。
Certainly, Rikuo University had a recently established art department, but it didn't have much history to it. Besides, the instructors didn't have a lot of name recognition, so it seemed like trying to pursue your career in a half-assed department.
あんたの腕と実績なら東京の美大だって引く手あまたでしょ？今の高校みたいに奨学金とか特待生待遇とか、いい先生もそっちの方が多いし、名を売る機会も環境も格段の違いなのに、なんでそっちにしなかったのさ。
別に名前を売るために絵を描いてるわけじゃないしさ。それにいや、なんでもねえよ。
He quickly shut his mouth to avoid answering, but I could see how red his face was turning. By the way, I recently learned that the school that girl was aspiring to, Misaki University, was a sister school of Rikuo University. And as part of that relationship, I hear that some of their general education classes are conducted together. Of course, it would increase their opportunities to see each other face to face.
しかしまあ、あんたもベタ惚れだね。いくら告白したてで不安だからって自分の将来まで相手の都合で決めなくてもいいんじゃない？
別に俺は君吉のことで大学を決めたわけじゃ。
私は一言も夏美のことは言ってなかったんだけど。
Way to shoot yourself in the foot, Akira-kun. What a simple-minded guy.
あ、でも。
A thought suddenly came to me. If Natsumi knew about this, what would she think? I would think she'd be quite pleased. Akira's choice to enroll at Rikuo University didn't have much impact on my decision. Rather, it was the other way around. And even if we're in the same university, the Department of Arts and the Pharmacology Department are essentially completely different schools. But I advised Natsumi to set Rikuo University aside. It was obviously a poor choice given her current grades. And the people at her house didn't understand the importance of exam prep, so they couldn't help.
ねえアキラ、
なんだ？
そのさ、アキラが陸王大に行くって決めたこと、夏美には話した？
いや、まだだけど。それが？
うん、ちょっとさ、事情があって、あの子にはそのことまだ黙っててくれるかな？
は？
Akira didn't understand the meaning of that at first and stared blankly. But after hearing my explanation, he seemed convinced. Akira didn't want there to be any strange misunderstandings.
わかったよ。しばらく黙っておく。でも、なんだか隠し事してるみたいで、いい気分じゃないよな。
おうおう、えらく真面目だね。今からそんなんじゃ浮気した時に一発でバレるよ。
浮気なんてするかよ。
Anyway, we'll try talking to Natsumi about it when the time is right. And we'll emphasize the fact that Misaki and Rikuo are sister schools. There's nothing to feel guilty about here. Once we explain everything properly, surely Natsumi will. But is that really how it will play out? I would hope so, for your guys' sake. Otherwise, well, tragedy's gonna strike again. So, it's like I was saying earlier. Investigation for the detectives just isn't going well at all so far. And to top it all off, Natsumi's family is clearly starting to lose their marbles, going by what we've seen with the decorations around the household that quickly sprung up. And on top of that, Natsumi herself is also showing signs of instability, so unless somebody does something drastic and soon, it looks to me like we're just going to end up getting a similar repeat of what happened in the last arc. And that's just not going to be fun for anybody. Anyway, I didn't really have much to say throughout this whole thing because, well, I'm just a lot of stuff that Ooshi, Minai, and Akasaka have been investigating are all stuff I've already known, and well, I haven't really been seeing too much happen with Natsumi and her group, which is who I'm more interested in at this point. I don't know. I guess this episode just felt a little bit boring to me, I guess. I mean, there were periods where I was indeed a little interested in how things would play out, but I mean, it just feels like as though we're just retreading a lot of ground in ways that don't really add a greater sense of intrigue compared to the last arc, where everything was almost brand new on account of having a whole new setting with a whole new set of characters to meet and get to know. I think what would really help is if they just, like, I don't know, bring up more information about Chisato and this mystery girl I keep hearing about every so often. Just something new that I don't already know at this point, to just give me something to hook myself into. Otherwise, I fear that before this is over, I'm just going to be finding myself wishing that it would just end already. And I don't want to reach that point, but I mean, well, it's like, again, I just feel like I'm just retreading a lot of stuff here, and a lot of stuff here that isn't terribly surprising to see or terribly interesting. But maybe that'll change now that I see. Maybe that'll change in the next episode. Who knows? I'm gonna try to keep my fingers crossed. Anyway, for what it's worth, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.